They thought he'd gone mad. Every morning, for 27 days, he sat in complete silence. No phone, no music, no journaling, just stillness. Same time, same place, eyes open, a faint smile on his face. He wasn't meditating. He wasn't visualizing. He wasn't even trying to manifest. He just was. His friends whispered, "He's wasting time." His mentors raised eyebrows. "He's falling behind." The world moved fast, but he moved slower until he stopped moving altogether. But then, on the 28th day, something strange happened. 3 emails, 3 life-changing opportunities, all from people he hadn't contacted. No outreach, no promotion, no effort, just arrival, as if the universe had been quietly listening all along. Was it random? A coincidence? Number it was a recalibration, because what nobody saw was that during those 27 days, he was not idle. He was undoing something deeper. He was untangling from the need to prove, to chase, to earn. He was letting go of the belief that worth must be demonstrated through action. That results come faster if you grind harder. He stopped performing for the world and started listening to himself. That man didn't attract miracles by trying. He became magnetic by remembering. And here's the truth they never tell you. The field, the energy, the frequency, the quantum mirror that surrounds us all isn't responding to your actions. It's responding to your state. That's why you can work hard, do the rituals, say the affirmations, visualize the dream, and still feel like nothing is shifting. Because while your mind speaks intention, your body broadcasts contradiction. You're fluent in action, but the field speaks frequency. And frequency never lies. It speaks in the silence when you're alone. It speaks in your breath, in your posture, in the stories your nervous system still believes. It speaks in the absence of effort. The field responds to who you are when no one's watching, when you're not chasing, not scripting, not hunting for signs, just being. The universe isn't a reward system. It's not a parent handing out gold stars for effort. It's a mirror reflecting coherence. And coherence isn't about pretending to be high vibe. It's about being energetically aligned beneath the surface. Your thoughts, electric, your heart, magnetic. Together, they form a frequency, a broadcast that never shuts off. But what happens when that frequency is fractured? You say, "I am abundant," but your body still flinches at every bill. You visualize love, but shrink at the idea of being truly seen. You chase peace, but your breath tells a story of survival. And so the field responds, not to your words, but to your vibration. It's not judging you. It's simply echoing, because the field doesn't understand hope. It understands resonance, like 2 tuning forks vibrating at the same frequency. One across the room starts to hum, not because it was touched, but because it recognized its match. That's how the quantum field works, and that's the secret. Manifestation isn't a doing game. It's a frequency game. Your state is your magnet. Your identity is your code. And that identity, the one running the show, isn't built in your conscious mind. It's rooted in your body, in the emotions you rehearse, in the tension you carry, in the silence between thoughts. That's why you can light candles, wake up at 5 a.m., journal your desires with surgical precision, and still get nothing. Because underneath it all, the identity hasn't changed. And identity is what the field listens to most. The identity of someone still proving, still trying, still asking to be chosen. But the field doesn't respond to want. It responds to embodiment. So let's shift, not by adding more, not by pushing harder, but by becoming quieter, clearer, truer. The man who sat in stillness wasn't lazy. He wasn't avoiding life. He was syncing with it. He was remembering what most people forget in the noise of self-help. You do not earn alignment. You return to it, and that return cannot be performed. It must be felt. So ask yourself, if you stopped all effort today, all rituals, all affirmations, would your frequency still speak for you? Would it still broadcast your worth, your wholeness, your inevitability? Or would it echo doubt, lack, urgency? This is not blame. This is precision. Because when you finally understand that the field doesn't respond to performance, but to posture, everything changes. You stop chasing. You start transmitting. Not I will be, not I'm becoming, but I am now. And that now is the only place the quantum field exists. It doesn't respond to timelines. It responds to presence. This is where most people get lost. They say the right words, take the right steps, but inside there's contraction, tension, static. Their nervous system is wired to the old reality. So the signal breaks. The timelines don't collapse. It's not your technique, it's your transmission. So here's your moment to shift before the world touches you, before you scroll, before you consume. Pause. Take a breath. Let it be deep. Let it be deliberate. Not just for oxygen, but for signal. And now choose 3 words. Not affirmations, frequencies, states you are now living from. Not things you want to get, but truths you already are. Maybe it's ease, maybe it's worth, maybe it's wholeness. Say them, whisper them, feel them. Let your chest expand, not with air, but with identity. And now, broadcast, not from hope, from certainty. This is who I am today. This is the signal I'm sending. This is the version of me the field will meet. And here's the secret. Don't stop there. The mistake most people make is they perform this pulse, then shrink back into their old self. But the field remembers your signal. The more consistent you become, the stronger it echoes back. So now carry it. In how you walk, in how you breathe, in how you decide, in what you tolerate, in what you no longer explain. Let your frequency do the talking. Because your new identity, it's not a costume, not a Pinterest board, not a vibe. It's a posture, it's a presence, it's a pulse. And when you start moving through the world with that pulse intact, everything begins to rearrange. Not because you tried, but because you became. And now the real test begins. Because once you transmit that signal, once you pulse the field with your new identity, life doesn't always reward you immediately. Sometimes it echoes back the exact thing you've outgrown, just to see if your frequency wavers, a delay, a doubt, an old trigger, a familiar silence. And in that moment, you'll be tempted to collapse. Not because you're weak, but because the old self is loud, it's familiar, it knows how to survive. It's rehearsed the role of chasing, performing, proving. And the field, being a perfect mirror, will reflect back whatever you believe in that moment. Not what you said in your ritual, but what you embody in your breath. So how do you hold the signal when the world doesn't reflect it back? Not with force, not with control, but with remembrance. Remembrance of who you truly are. Beyond conditions, beyond results, beyond timelines. Because the goal isn't to be in a high vibration once. The goal is to become emotionally unavailable for anything that contradicts your true frequency. This isn't discipline, it's devotion. Tiny choices, silent agreements. You're tempted to rush? Pause. You want to grasp? Soften. The old pattern rises. Smile and stay. Because here's what no one teaches. Manifestation doesn't break through in breakthroughs. It happens in micro decisions. The moments where you choose to act from the new identity, not the old one. That's how timelines collapse. That's how the field calibrates, not because you forced it, but because you refuse to abandon the new you. And the more you hold that signal, the more your outer world begins to reorganize, not instantly, but inevitably. Now let's go deeper, because your environment must become a mirror of your frequency, not a battlefield you fight every day. That doesn't mean you hide from challenge. It means you curate your world to support your state. What music lifts your frequency? What scent calms your body? What space makes you breathe deeper? Even more important, who reinforces your new identity? Who speaks to your expansion, not your fear? And who, silently or not, drags you back into the vibration of scarcity, effort, or doubt? This is not judgment. This is hygiene, energetic hygiene, because every input is either reinforcing your broadcast or interrupting it. And your job is not to convince the world to support you. Your job is to support yourself so deeply that the world has no choice but to match your consistency. Now let's return to the pulse. You've said your 3 words. You've transmitted your signal. You've chosen your frequency. But now you carry it into your day, into the moments that used to steal it, into the conversations that used to shrink you, into the choices that used to trigger contraction. You walk as the signal, not hoping it works, knowing it already is. That's the difference between the performer and the transmitter. The performer waits for proof. The transmitter becomes it. Now imagine this. You've anchored this state. You're coherent. You feel calm, clear, magnetic. And then it happens. Something arrives. A call, an invitation, a moment of alignment so precise it feels surreal. You didn't chase it. You didn't beg for it. You became it. Because coherence collapses time. The future that once felt far away begins to orbit you. Not because you asked louder, but because you stopped asking entirely. That's the paradox. The less you need it, the more it needs you. Because need is resistance. Trying is separation. Grasping is static. And the field only echoes clarity. That's why people say, let go and detach. Not because you shouldn't care, but because the energy of clinging repels the very thing you desire. So let's redefine surrender. It's not giving up, it's giving in. It's not passivity, it's precision. It's not a backup plan, it's the main portal. When you surrender with coherence, not because you're tired, but because you're whole, then you stop waiting, you stop searching, and you start magnetizing. That's when things speed up. That's when timelines fold, because the field can finally respond to a signal that is clean, congruent, consistent. No static, no contradiction, just truth. Now take another breath. This one is different, not for calming, for broadcasting. Inhale your frequency. Exhale your posture. You are no longer performing, you are transmitting. You are no longer waiting for proof. You are the proof. And in that space, life reorganizes. Doors open, opportunities align, people remember your name. Answers arrive without question. Not because you did more, but because you became less divided. You became coherent. And in a universe built on resonance, coherence is the most magnetic force there is. So let me ask you this. If today was the last day you ever tried to manifest anything, if you stopped scripting, stopped searching, stopped checking for signs, would your energy still speak for you? Would the field still recognize you as the match? If not, that's your invitation. Not to do more, but to subtract, to release the patterns of effort, to untangle from the identity of striving, to dismantle the belief that life must be earned, because you were never meant to chase, you were meant to become. And once you remember that, the whole game changes. You become emotionally immune to chaos. You stop flinching at resistance. You stop bracing for disappointment. You breathe differently. You move slower, but with more certainty. You walk through the world with a quiet power that doesn't need to shout. Because you've tuned your frequency to the truth, you are already what you were seeking. And now, everything that matches that truth can find you. So now, the world begins to bend, quietly at first, imperceptibly. Then all at once, the calls you stopped waiting for begin to arrive. The doors that were once locked open before you knock, the connections, the timing, the ideas, everything begins to move toward you, not because you're reaching, but because you're radiating. This is not luck. This is not a miracle. This is physics, because in the quantum field, nothing is random. Everything is resonance, and resonance obeys the laws of coherence, not desire. You attract what you are, not what you want. And what you are is a living broadcast. Every breath, every decision, every emotion is a transmission. The field isn't responding to the words you say. It's responding to the story your energy is telling. And most people don't know what story they're telling. They say, I trust, while gripping the outcome in white-knuckled fear. They say, I'm ready, but their body still flinches at the idea of receiving. They say, I believe, but their posture whispers doubt. This is not judgment. This is awareness. Because until you become aware of the signal you're sending, you will keep wondering why the field seems quiet, why the timeline won't shift, why the things you claim to be aligned with continue to elude you. But the truth is, they're not avoiding you. They're waiting for you to match, to stabilize, to stop vibrating from absence, because the field does not respond to yearning. It responds to knowing, and knowing doesn't beg. It doesn't rush. It doesn't grasp. It breathes. It anchors. It allows. This is why the most powerful people in the world are often the most still, the most certain, the least frantic, because they've realized they don't need to prove anything to the universe. They just need to be in harmony with it. This is the art of becoming. And now you're here, in this space, with this awareness, with this remembering. So now the work begins. Not the old kind of work, pushing, proving, grinding, but the inner work of subtle alignment. The daily choice to wake up and pulse the field with clarity before it pulses you with confusion. The sacred pause before the spiral. The breath that interrupts the collapse. The smile that tells the old self, you're no longer in charge. And in those tiny moments, something magnificent happens. You stop being a seeker. You start being a source. You stop chasing the frequency and become the frequency. You stop asking for a sign and realize you are the sign. Because when your thoughts, your emotions, and your body move as one coherent signal, the universe no longer sees you as a request. It sees you as a match, and matches are magnetic. So how do you stay here? How do you maintain the frequency when the world still spins fast, when the noise tries to pull you back, when the doubts come softly disguised as logic? You stay with the breath. You stay with the 3 words. You stay with the posture of the new you, even when no one validates it, even when nothing confirms it, even when everything around you is tempting you to return to who you were, because that's the final test, not from the universe, but from yourself. Can you hold the signal when there's no evidence? Can you be the vibration when there's no result? Can you still trust, not because things are happening, but because you already are? That's the difference between almost manifesting and collapsing timelines. Almost is trying. Timelines collapsing is being. So here's your invitation, not to do more, but to become unavailable for anything that contradicts your new identity. To protect your frequency like your future depends on it, because it does. To tune your nervous system to safety. to walk through life with the energy of someone who no longer waits to become, because they already are. And when you live like that, day by day, moment by moment, the universe starts rearranging faster than logic can explain. You'll be called lucky. You'll be called chosen. You'll be told it just worked out for you. But you'll know the truth. You didn't wait. You aligned. You didn't chase. You radiated. You didn't become something new. You remembered what you always were. And now everything that matches that remembrance begins to orbit you, because the universe is not responding to effort. It's responding to coherence. So one last question. Before you move forward, before you step into another version of your day, ask yourself this: who am I when I no longer chase? Who am I when I no longer perform? Who am I when I no longer ask for proof? And if that version of you could speak right now, they'd say this: I am the signal. Not because I'm trying to manifest faster, but because I finally remembered. The field never needed my effort. It needed my coherence. And now it has it. Now I walk differently. Now I breathe with certainty. Now I live not as a seeker, but as a source, because I am no longer waiting. I am no longer becoming. I am. And in that state, the universe is already responding. And so now something fundamental shifts. Not outside, inside. You no longer move through life hoping to arrive. You realize you already have. You're no longer trying to manifest something out there, because what you were trying to create was never outside of you to begin with. It was always coded in your field, waiting for you to match it. And once you do, reality bends, gently, quietly, irrevocably. It bends not because you demanded it, but because your frequency left no other choice. You begin to notice the small synchronicities first, the gentle nudges, the soft alignments, a conversation that suddenly turns into a connection, an idea that arrives without effort, a delay that once brought frustration now feels like divine timing. That's when you realize the field isn't just responding, it's dancing with you. And this dance, it doesn't require choreography. It requires congruence, because when you move from alignment, the universe moves with you. When you speak from embodiment, the universe speaks back. When you decide from certainty, the universe delivers with clarity. That's the new reality you're walking into, one that doesn't require hustle, strategy, or performance, one that doesn't respond to manipulation, pleasing, or proving, but to presence, to truth, to the vibration of someone who no longer doubts their place in the timeline they're calling in. So here's your final transmission. From this moment forward, you are the signal, not the seeker, not the performer, not the student, but the source. You pulse not because you're hoping it works, but because you know it already has. You wake not to chase, but to remember. You sit in stillness, not because it's trendy, but because your stillness is magnetic. You're no longer asking the universe to deliver, because you are the delivery. Your presence is the frequency that calls it all in. You no longer visualize abundance. You radiate it. You no longer script love. You embody it. You no longer beg for peace. You become it. That is your power, not in your knowledge, but in your embodiment, not in your rituals, but in your regulation, not in your affirmations, but in your state. And when you truly live from that state, reality doesn't just shift, it obeys. So let this be the moment. Let this be the line in the timeline where the old self ends. Let this be the space where you no longer shrink to fit your past. Let this be the breath where you expand into what you've always been. Not someday, now not after proof, before it. Because you don't need to be chosen. You are already chosen. You don't need to earn it. You're already worthy. You don't need to wait. It's already moving towards you. Now, transmit with no doubt, with no hesitation, with no apology. Let your frequency rise from your breath. Let your signal carry through your bones. Let your presence announce your timeline without a single word. And if something inside you stirred as you heard this, if something clicked, if something remembered, then you are already in the shift. The collapse has begun. The field is listening. And you are finally speaking its language. Not with your words, but with your being. So say it one last time. Not as a mantra, not as a wish, but as a knowing. I am the signal, and everything has already begun.